Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Never before in the history of sports podcasts have two men brought you opinion and analysis like these two. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Reed Show.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on the Barroom Network. If you're watching us live on YouTube, you can follow along on Twitter as well. Follow me at the Real Evan Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. Remember, you can catch all of our previous shows on Spotify and iTunes if you want the audio-only version, also on YouTube. Don't forget to follow the Barroom Network at Barroom Network on Twitter as well. Ross, how you doing? You got an Oktoberfest, the last one.
Last Oktoberfest of the year. I found it in the back of the fridge. Gotta like drink it. Right here it is. Last one of the year.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you do a Steinhoist and see the whole show. I bet you can hold it the whole time. You must be you.
It transitions from this to like Christmas ale, right? Christmas ale is already on the shelves, and get your gingerbread beer.
It gets progressively like motor oil, and then you know January hits, and you're like, I want a stout that's 15%. It's just gonna fuck me up after one beer. That's all I want, and because I'm depressed because it's dark at 3:00.
What's the Goose Island one? The one that's always popular.
Bourbon County Stout, which they
Bourbon
just do their release. They've done collab. They're doing like a collab with Old Fitzgerald this year. They do all sorts of crazy stuff.
I have 3 bottles from like 3 years ago still in my bar. I have not used. One of them is like a bourbon stout Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So we'll probably have to do an in-person show and crack those open.
I'm in to do that. We'll do a Mac and Reed holiday special in person. Yes. I think we should definitely do that. Very good, very good. And we have a lot to get to on the show besides talking beer today. We got to talk about the Bears, of course, and Justin Fields again. The coming out season, the second season. You're seeing the progression and how good this kid really is against the Miami. It was everything as advertised. We'll talk about that at length. And, people are throwing around the question, how quickly can Fields make the Bears Super Bowl contenders? Let's slow down. We'll talk about the future plan there, and then what to think about the rest of the roster, because it wasn't only Justin Fields who gave us some interesting impressions of the Bears heading into a matchup against the Lions this Sunday. And we'll talk about the rest of the NFL, who's ahead in the MVP race. There's a game in Germany. There's a lot to unpack there. We'll preview the Falcons and Panthers game tonight as this week kicks off soon. We'll talk about the NBA. We'll, I guess, give our flowers to Mattress Mac, making a already rich man even richer with that Houston Astros win. Surprises along the way, and I'm sure Ross will be seeing Wakanda Forever this weekend. We'll see how pumped he is for that. I know a lot of people are ready. Also, Ross, as we dive into it, what brand Oktoberfest? What do you got there?
That is On Tour Brewing Company, which is a local product here. As I always say, this is not an ad, but if you want to make it be On Tour, please pay me.
Yes, sir.
At Ross Reed on Twitter, and I will probably promote your beer. But they're a fantastic brewery. As you know, Chicago has, to me, one of the most underrated brew scenes in the country. I know people give a lot of credit to the Denvers of the world and Portland and Milwaukee and stuff like that for their craft brew scene. But Chicago has some outstanding. We obviously know On Tour, Revolution, Mars is not too far from me, and Forbidden Root. And so shout out to all the local Chicago breweries out there. They're outstanding. And of course the Goose Island being the big one that kind of went corporate. They are.
Oh, they absolutely did. Yeah,
they're
about it.
Yeah, they're not owned by Anheuser-Busch, but still a great product as well.
It is, and that's what people think of with Chicago beer. But you hit it on the head with all those other ones, and I certainly love Revolution and Half Acre, and On Tour is great too. That there's that little spot sort of in the West Loop there in Goose Island and Fulton Market area where they do have that whole cluster, and I think Goose Island every summer they close off the blocks there, and they have a nice little festival. I remember seeing some music there a couple of years ago, and having some great beers. Fantastic stuff. To begin, Ross, let's talk Bears. Let's talk about the Bears coming off a loss to Miami, but boy, Justin Fields putting on a hell of a show, and that offense certainly led by Justin Fields, even in a loss where the negatives are the same that we've been talking about all season, where this defense, certainly now that you traded away Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn, now that defense is just going through Swiss cheese. So they gave up 35 points to Miami, which you figured they would be giving up something like that, because this was one of the most high-powered offenses in the league, right up there in the same breath as the Chiefs and as the Bills, certainly. But the story was on the other side of the football for the Bears, and it certainly was Justin Fields, as we've expected. And what a electric day he had. 3 touchdowns through the air and 1 rushing on that 61-yard scramble. That was nuts. It gave you sort of that same, feeling. I remember last year against the 49ers when he spun out and reversed field and went into the end zone too. I mean, he's just the plays he's able to make and the ways he is able to extend plays with his feet is something else. And on top of that, what you need to be doing in this league, if you're an athletic quarterback like Justin Fields, is be able to make the big throws. And he did that to the tune of those 3 touchdowns, 1 to Darnell Mooney, which was a dime, which was outstanding, and then 2 to Cole Kmet. We'll get to Ross's apology to Cole Kmet in a little bit here. But 178 rushing yards on the day was the most by a quarterback in a regular season game. That's with, Michael Vick in the history books of the NFL at this point. Really impressive. There's a part of you as a Bears fan where, you root for a losing season for a higher draft pick or whatever. But I certainly, the way this game was going and a lot of attention was being on the Dolphins and Tua and how great this offense was. And they certainly were. And Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle could not be stopped. There's a reason those two are, obviously like in the top 5 of wide receivers in the NFL right now. But, one bad non-call away and Equanimeous St. Brown failing to make a 4th down catch that blew that up, that 2-minute drill where it looked like Justin Fields had the legs to do it. He certainly, as Mike McDaniel kept asking him to stop scrambling, he wasn't doing it. And he was going to that repeatedly to just cut through that Miami defense. It earned him NFC Offensive Player of the Week accolades and certainly from his teammates. And I know Cole Kmet, just to scroll through a bit of them, he said on what he's thinking when he sees Justin Fields take off running, he said, quote, "Get out of his way." I know Tevin Jenkins said of Justin Fields, he's special. We just need to be able to use him the way he's meant to be used and give him time in the pocket. He's a great runner, even better passer. I mean, we just need to give him time. It's very exciting for the future. Of course, the Dolphins players, showered praise on him as well. And after his impressive performance, safety Eric Rowe said, "I'm glad we don't have to see him again." And that's the reaction you want to see, right? And we talked about the expectations for Justin Fields in this second season are pretty high, and certainly not from a winning-losing standpoint, but from a development standpoint. And boy, he showed it everything you wanted to see Sunday in terms of the mobility, which we knew he had when he got drafted, and we saw flashes of it last year. We've seen flashes of it this season. The most complete game thus far. Putting up that historic stat line of 178 rushing yards. But the safety with the football was super important. Extending those plays, really just, the ball fakes, footwork, things like that. I know he was basically running for his life repeatedly like we've seen, but it was super impressive. And I know you agree with me, Ross. What did I miss with the Justin Fields' historic performance against Miami this past Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I just think like the poise, right, in him being able to use his weapons now to his advantage. I think a lot of times to start his career early on, he was taking big sacks or he was kind of forcing the football in bad situations. And now he realizes, look, I'm probably top 2, top 3 dynamic athlete in the NFL right now, and I need to start using that to my advantage. When things start to break down a little bit, I can easily take off and exit the pocket and have a big gain. I mean, the 61-yard touchdown run, that he had was absolutely amazing. I mean, he takes off from the pocket, he fakes like he's going to throw the football, and the defenders absolutely bite on the fake, and that allows him to just hit a crease. This guy's one of the fastest athletes in the NFL. He's running over 21 miles an hour when he's got the football in his hands at full speed, and he runs down the field and gets a 61-yard touchdown. And that to me is being the most impressive. Is yes, we're all going to marvel about his rushing yards, like you said, 15 attempts for 178 yards. He breaks Michael Vick's regular season record of having rush yards. Overall, Colin Kaepernick does have the overall record at 181 that he had in a playoff game. But right now, Justin Fields has a regular season record. But to me, it was the fact that he had 106.7 quarterback rating, right? He didn't force the football really anywhere. He had one pass where, he saw the flag on the field and he kind of threw it into coverage, knowing that it was defensive holding, and the Dolphins picked it off, but it didn't matter anyway. But I mean, three touchdowns, 17 of 28, he only took 2 sacks. He wasn't forcing the football. That to me is the most impressive for his development going forward, because now teams are going to put a spy on him, right? They're going to try and keep him in the pocket. And I think now what you've seen, especially with the maturation of a guy like Lamar Jackson, who won a big football game on Monday night, is, Justin can throw from the pocket, as evident from that pass to Darnell Mooney for the touchdown. And more teams are going to try and force him in the pocket. And I think that's when the Bears are going to be able to take more shots down the field, with your Darnell Mooney's of the world, with your Chase Claypools of the world, right? But it just was the overall decision-making for me that was most impressive with Justin, where he finally realized, to me, it was kind of like, it's like a superhero that kind of realizes he has all his powers, and he just kind of says, oh, I can do this, and I'm going to manipulate the defense to do this out there and bring them to me, and I'm going to kind of go in a different direction and stuff like that. So that was awesome. It was great to see the offense as a whole was really impressive, not just Justin Fields. They actually had more first downs than the Dolphins. They had 23 first downs to 21 for the Miami Dolphins, and they held the time of possession. They had 34.46 on the clock for time of possession, compared to Miami's 25-14. So, if the Bears had any sentiment of a defense right now, they're actually winning that football game against a damn good team. And I feel like that's maybe a couple times a year now that we've said that, right? Probably should have won the Vikings game if we don't have that Marcetti situation. Should have won the Commanders game, right? If we don't have the Darnell Mooney drop and also the Dante Pettis interference in the end zone there. So that's 3 wins that are coming left on the board, but that's okay, because now it's all about, we talked about this all season long, it's all about Justin Fields taking these steps forward. And this week felt like the first time ever that, the whole league was just clamoring over a Chicago Bears quarterback. I've never seen that in my lifetime. I don't care, Jay Cutler to Mitch Trubisky to Jim McMahon to Eric Kramer to so on and so forth. I've never seen across the board on national media scale people just salivating over what Justin Fields did on Sunday. That makes you feel really good as a Bears fan going forward.
Bears quarterbacks have always been serviceable, right? You thought the biggest splash would be Jay Cutler. I remember being pretty optimistic about that, and we all know how that turned out. A lot of head-scratching moves, Mitch Trubisky and everybody in between that you mentioned too. Remember before the Browns had this long list of quarterbacks, how dismal it was, and then you get Cutler and Trubisky had his moments, but exactly like you said, Ross, everyone is elated with the performance that Justin Fields has had this season, and especially his past Sunday against Miami. He has more passing touchdowns, than Matthew Stafford, which isn't saying much, but suck it, Matthew Stafford. More rushing yards than Christian McCaffrey. More game-winning drives than Patrick Mahomes. He should have the most in the league, too. The only reason he doesn't have probably the tops of the league, and I don't know if he leads the league right now, I don't have the stats in front of me, is because of those things you mentioned, Ross, where basically, you're getting screwed by either your receivers or by a ref at the end of the game. So it's really tough to swallow that if these Bears had a lot to play for. And Equanimeous St. Brown had that bad drop on 4th down, which was a very catchable ball. But really, I mean, everything we talked about with Justin Fields, and I know that you made the comparison to a superhero that has discovered his powers and has that everything going at once type of thing. And he said, the quote, "It's just the same old me after that historic performance." Stay humble, man. And I think that, we're seeing just the tip of the iceberg, right, with him. And this is him performing and keeping the Bears in games with a mediocre football team around him, with a pretty mediocre line. I know there's been injuries across the line. Tevin Jenkins has been a pleasant surprise, has been pretty solid. Cody Whitehair has been injured. Lucas Patrick, the same thing. You throw Riley Reef in there, you throw Michael Schofield in there. It's been shuffling over and over again. So it's been forcing Justin Fields to make a lot of plays, extend a lot of plays, and run out of the pocket, which he thrives on to an extent. So to an extent, you want to see him stay in the pocket and make those big time throws. But if you're going to be able to scramble the way you did against that Dolphins defense, and that's your bread and butter, then by all means. Same thing with receivers. I think, Darnell Mooney has been, going into the season, was the number one choice. And then there's been nobody else. There's been nobody else in that receiving core. You have not seen Byron Pringle. You have not heard his name mentioned all season, besides in talks about what could have been an injury report. We saw that Velus Jones was a healthy scratch last weekend, which was really confusing. You thought you would need to have him out there to see what you have in that young man, and a pretty higher draft pick for the Bears. You saw your first bits of Chase Claypool, and he played some decent snaps. I mean, considering he had just learned the playbook, and obviously that just egregious non-call would just made you scratch your head. And as Bears fans say, what the fuck, this again? It just did not make a lot of sense, but he was getting open, and that's just with a short week there. And then outside of that, again, like the guys that we mentioned, Equanimous St. Brown and Mercedes, who's gone now at this point. Cole Kmet kind of had that coming out game too. So, with the rest of this offense, Ross, we've talked about Justin Fields at length, but are you at the point where you're basically debating who can stay and who can go? I know we talked about this last week a bit. It's kind of it's at that point where, the Bears don't have a ton to play for in the standings. They'll be in games. It's more for the development of Justin Fields, but it's a lot. It's more so a sort of audition for these guys to have a future Bear spot, right?
Absolutely. I mean, so, look at the offense right now, right? That Khalil Herbert is going to be a part of this team next year, right? David Montgomery is going to be a free agent, but I think that they're going to be able to re-sign David Montgomery. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's a very deep free agent class. They love David Montgomery and what he brings to the table. I think he's a good 1-2 punch with Khalil Herbert. And so, just the fact that they didn't trade him at the deadline, to me, leads me to believe that he's going to come back. And then you look at the wide receiver situation. Darnell Mooney is playing for a contract extension, and he wants in the neighborhood of that Deontay Johnson money, right? $18 to $20 million a year. And he's starting to play a lot better over the last couple of weeks, along with this entire offense. And Chase Claypool is going to bring a lot to the table to help Darnell Mooney continue to get open. Claypool only played about 20 to 25 snaps on Sunday, made an impact. Should have drawn a pass interference play at the end of that game there. It wasn't called. The NFL has admitted they made an egregious mistake on that decision. But I expect Darnell Mooney to continue to come on strong as long as Claypool gets more snaps on the football field. So you figure that's your 1-2 punch out there. You need a number 3 wide receiver, right? Byron Pringle will be on the field for the first time this season as he practiced today. They release
look at that.
Yep, they released Tongs, the fullback tight end, which leads us to believe that Pringle is taking his spot, and he should be able to go out there and make an impact right away. This guy's a veteran receiver. He's played in a Kansas City offense on the same field with Pat Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. So I expect him to play, north of 5 snaps on Sunday. And you still need to figure out, in my opinion, what you have with Velus Jones. And I know this was a hot button topic on Twitter. I tweeted it out on Sunday. Listen, in a season where you're trying to develop guys and it's kind of a lost season, you're trying to see what you have, I need to see this young man on the football field. I don't care if he's making mistakes at this point. Line him up in the backfield, line him up in the slot, give him in the reverse. I think he needs to go back out there on punt return. And I get that guys need to earn it and stuff like that, but he's a talented young man. He's a rookie that you spent the 3rd round draft pick on, but also he's 25 years old. That's fucking old.
That's an old rookie.
It is. So it's like you need to see what you have in this young man sooner than later. I'd rather see him on the football field making mistakes and potentially to learn from it than seeing Dante Pettis drop another pass or Equanimous St. Brown drop another pass, right? These guys are not a part of your future going forward. I want both those guys off the team at the end of this year, right? I need to see what Jones has. I put him out in the field with the Claypools of the world and Darnell Mooney's. And here is my mea culpa to Cole Kmet.
Oh, here it is.
I'm sorry. I have shitted on Cole Kmet his entire career. I've called him slow and clumsy and goofy, and he can't catch and he can't block. And why is he on the football field? And why did we not draft Chase Claypool over Cole Kmet? And why did we not draft Antoine Winfield Jr. over Cole Kmet? And I still kind of feel like that, but Cole Kmet is proving his value over the last couple of weeks in this season. And if he can continue to do those things, especially in the red zone, then he's proven to be a top 10 tight end in the league right now. And I will be more than happy to eat those words. Cole Kmet, please continue to develop. Please continue to be a valuable weapon for Justin Fields. And I have no problem saying I'm sorry to you. And I fully expect for him to even go out there this Sunday against a brutal Lions defense and maybe potentially get another touchdown again.
Takes a big man. Takes a big man, Ross. Takes a big man.
Thank you.
We're proud of you. We're proud of you. I'm not sold on Cole Kmet yet. It's one game. Tight ends do this shit all the time. I'm not going to apologize to him. I haven't been as down on him as you have. Certainly when you draw that, it's always the what if you took Antoine Winfield versus him. We'll never know. Same thing as Pat Mahomes versus Mitchell Trubisky. I don't want to dwell on what happened, but Cliff brought up the point that he's pretty high on this wide receiver room outside of them not having a Cooper Kupp or a Stephon Diggs or Jamar Chase type of guy. And you figure, Claypool, he could be up there, right? If he's 23 years old and him and Justin Fields click and they have that good chemistry. And then if Darnell Mooney can accept being second banana to Chase Claypool, then you never know. Then you just really filter out who's that gadget third guy and fourth guy if needed. But you absolutely need Velus Jones out there when you drafted this guy pretty high. He's 25 years old. Muff punts and all. Guys muff punts. It is what it is. He's still a rookie and he's still adjusting to the NFL speed. The only way he's going to adjust is more snaps and figuring out if he does fit into this Luke Getsy offense, which we have to assume will be running it back next year with these guys who are all auditioning to come back in this next year, in the third year of the Justin Fields experience. The defense, looking ahead to the Lions, Lions putting up points this year, and I don't expect anything from the defense. I think for the rest of the season, we'll be seeing what we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks, where it'll just be a fight for whoever can score the most points. And we've got what we wanted so far, right? We've seen the Bears putting up 30-plus points in back-to-back weeks, and it's been impressive when they were dead last in points for, I feel like, in the league, or very close to the bottom, I should say. The rushing attack is nuts, as we've seen, and just feel out what you can do to improve on this team based on who's out there now. The defense, I know that it was posed by the Barroom Network, is who's a guy who, basically for the whole team, but of the Bears players, who's due for an extension. Eddie Jackson is the most paid man in the locker room right now, and he's captain, and he's not going anywhere, it looks like. You would think Jalen Johnson would be right up there, certainly. But any other guys that come to mind, it's up for an audition besides Darnell Mooney, who we talked about, because wide receivers all got paid big money this last year. Focusing on the Lions and just the bigger picture with the rest of the season, what do you want to see Sunday and beyond?
Yeah, I think Jalen Johnson is going to get an extension. You can't lose corners in this league. It's a passing league. You need guys that will be able to defend out there. I think Brandon Morrow is going to get his extension with the Bears. I think that Matt Eberflus likes him a lot. He knows the system. He's very comfortable with him at that linebacker spot. You need a more dynamic linebacker to pair with him. But the Bears need their whole front seven just revamped. They have one of the worst front sevens in the league. I like Travis Gibson a lot, but I think that he's a rotational player. They need a prime number one pass rushing guy out there. And so much so that I think if they finish, in the top 10 in the NFL draft, I think that's what they're going to go for with the maybe the 7th or 8th overall pick. Is you go out there, you try and find an elite pass rusher, and I'd be perfectly okay with it. I know we want maybe a potentially number one wide receiver or an offensive tackle, and maybe you could trade down and get one of those. But To me, you've got the blue chip athlete on offense, right? You've got one of the most dynamic players in the NFL on offense in your quarterback, Justin Fields. Now you need a young man on defense who can match that intensity, right? I'm talking young. I'm talking about like older Khalil Mack or older Robert Quinn or even kind of older off ball. I mean, he wasn't older, but Roquan Smith was an off ball linebacker. That doesn't do anything for me, right? I want a guy like a Micah Parsons type on defense to match with Justin Fields. And boy, if you get something like that, now you're really cooking, right? And so I think that Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus and Ian Cunningham are going to look long and hard in this draft and really try and revamp the entire front seven. They need a dynamic pass rusher on the outside. They need a 3 technique really, really bad because the 3 technique will gobble up some space, make your linebackers look good, and they need another linebacker to go with Morrow. So I expect them to attack those positions early on. I love Brisker. I think Kyler Gordon is a good corner in the slot. I don't like him a lot outside. He got cooked a little bit on Sunday going up against Tyreek Hill, but guess what? Tyreek Hill is cooking everybody this year. He's got over 1,100 yards receiving. He's cooking everybody this year. I think Vim Dor has been really good too. I just don't know if he's the long-term answer, but I see this defense really being retooled in both free agency and the draft in their front seven. But I'm all in on drafting a pass rusher top 10. You have to go get like a Will Anderson or a Jalen Carter type of guy.
Yeah, no question.
As that flashes on the screen right there.
Right, absolutely.
And this is all still fluid because we don't know what the Bears, the draft, talking about the draft in November is such a fluid situation. We don't know what they're going to end up with, in terms of draft wise, right? But to me, the draft is always what quarterbacks are going to go in the top 10 because we see it every year. At least 2 to 3 quarterbacks go 5 to 10 range, right? But then you might see a sneaky quarterback get pushed up. So if a guy like Levi's from the quarterback from Kentucky, if somebody falls in love with him and he gets pushed up into the top 5, you can maybe see one of these elite pass rushers start to trickle down to you. Let's say if the Bears are at 6th or 7th overall, and that's a dream scenario in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I think if your edge guy or 3 technique isn't there, and hopefully the Bears are probably drafting in that top 10, then you certainly look at bolstering that offensive line too, right? I mean, I know the guys I mentioned have played in shitty situations with rotating and probably outside of their positions, and Lucas Patrick and Cody Whitehair and Schofield and Riley Reef. Schofield and Riley Reef will not be. Shout out Michael Schofield. I have a shirt from his fundraiser. It was at Top Golf one year. But you're not going to be on the Bears next year. As much as you're a hometown guy, you're going to have to really play your ass off if you get your starting opportunities here. But it's about protecting Justin Fields and then getting some sort of a pass rush. The pass rush has not been there this season. They haven't been, you saw it also scroll around on the bottom of your screen there that Bears have ranked toward the bottom of the league in rushing defense. And it doesn't help that you're not going to see Al-Qadim Muhammad, Kendall Vildor. They're on the injury report, so we'll see come Sunday what that's looking like. On the note of the sibling rivalry that we talked about, this bet and Equinemius St. Brown and Amon St. Brown, what are you thinking? Who's going to be coming out with? Obviously, we know who's going to be having more yardage on the day, but he says he has $1,000 bet with his brother of the Lions on who wins Sunday's game. I also can't believe that they came out and said that. I should probably keep that under the hat.
Yeah, I was going to say Calvin Ridley is probably texting those guys right now and saying, like, shh, let's keep that a little quiet, guys. You're going to be sitting next to me for the next year, right? I mean, this is a football game that I think – so here's my take on this football game on this Sunday, right? Is, I think a lot of people right now are rooting for Bears losses because, we want to get a higher draft pick. And we want to see Justin Fields continue with his success and the offense continue with success, but still lose football games. But I actually think that at some point you need to start stacking a little bit. You need to start stacking some wins just for the young guys and the morale of your football team, especially a guy like Justin Fields. As much as he balled his ass out on Sunday, one of the things that stood out to me was his look on his face coming across the field as he went to go greet Tua Tagovailoa, the opposite quarterback, and he was a little bit dejected. At some point, it's like this young man wants to win football games. He's come from a program in Ohio State and also in Georgia and in high school that he's won a lot of football games. He's not used to losing. You don't ever want to get a guy used to losing football games. And so to me, as much as we do want that top 10 pick, I look at this game on Sunday and I think that this is kind of a must-win situation for the Bears. This is a division rival team. The Lions are not a good defensive team, right? They are a mess of a franchise. They're probably going to clean house at the end of the season, especially with their whole entire coaching staff. This is a football game that I actually want to see the Bears go out there and beat the shit out of them. And I want to see the Justin Fields show with that offense, and I want to see the defense get a couple takeaways, and I actually want to see a big win. I'm all in for winning divisional games the rest of the stretch of the way. Lions, we still have one more left with the Vikings. We still have one more left with the Packers, right? I want to win those football games. Also, that Zach Wilson game, fuck that dude. I want to win that football game as well. But outside of that, if the Bears take any more losses from there, I'm okay with that. But those are some games I really want them to win.
Well, it's mostly divisional games when you look at the rest of the schedule, right? Winnable games, certainly Lions against the Lions on Sunday, and then the Falcons playing in Atlanta. That could be a win as well. Then you're traveling to play the Jets. Jets have been an upstart team, pretty good defensively, and Sauce Gardner will be a challenge for that Bears wide receiving core. But then that game against the Packers, man, you want to kick them while they're down. That 4-game stretch there could potentially be 3-1. I know a lot of people are saying at this point, and then you go through the meat grinder with the Eagles and Bills probably just taking back-to-back losses against some Super Bowl contenders there. But absolutely, you want to practice in these games, I should say, prepare for the next seasons to come against these divisional rivals. And you are preparing for, we don't know if maybe Aaron Rodgers hangs it up after the season, because this is dismal performance and the wheels have come off. This team around him, this front office for Green Bay is going to have to do a lot to try to get him to stay. They're going to have to sign a top wide receiver or get him some help. And clearly at the trade deadline, they said, fuck it, we're going to let you walk. They might trot Jordan Love out there if it just keeps taking a beating like this is. Also, Aaron Rodgers, the wheels have fallen off since you've taken ayahuasca, man. But the Detroit Lions winning against them certainly, they feel like they're going to lock down Jared Goff for years to come. So you think about the quarterback matchups, the same with Kirk Cousins. Beating those guys and figuring out how to game plan against them is super crucial. So if you can stack some wins against the divisional teams, why not, man? To build that confidence for sure.
Absolutely. Got a prediction for Sunday?
I do. We were looking at 30s, right? So yeah. I think the Bears putting up, we'll say 38, and we'll say the Lions putting up 27.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, listen, you kind of want to take the overs on the Bears for the rest of the season, right? The last couple of weeks, they've been putting up points, and they've also been giving up
where you took the others for the first half. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I like the Bears on Sunday as well. I think they're going to be able to win by at least 10 points. I like them to win 30-20. I just don't think this Lions team is very good. I think also the Lions had their Super Bowl last week when they beat the Packers, right, at home. And so that was a very big emotional win for them. And I think they probably emptied the tank last week. And I think that them coming on the road to Soldier Field in a divisional game against one of the most electric quarterbacks in the league right now, I don't think it's going to end up very well for them. I like the Bears to win this one pretty big.
Taking them to win and the over, and we'll switch focus to the rest of the NFL here. And speaking of Dan Campbell, it's I don't know. I go back and forth about Dan Campbell, but he's a football guy. I love to see these emotions from these guys, because at the end of the day, it's all about the winning. That's for sure. And it was there was a lot going on, obviously, in this last week. Besides that, as I talked about, the Green Bay Packers continue to fall, and I think that. We'll talk about MVP sort of front runners as we go on here. The Eagles continue to be just monsters. Obviously, they played the Texans right after we got off the air last week, but they improved to 8-0. You can't argue that against them being the tops for the NFC contenders in the Super Bowl at this point right now. Bengals keep going back and forth. In the NFC North, obviously it's the Vikings division at this point. That team has been super impressive, and they eked one out against the Commanders, and we saw the awkwardness that is Kirk Cousins with chains on, and I don't know what that was. And then Adam Schefter made fun of him. It was weird, but do your thing. We see the Seahawks, man. Seahawks moved on from Wilson, and they rolled over the Cardinals and the Buccaneers. That was a must-win game for them, beating the Rams. And what has happened to the Rams? Oh no, the Rams are at bottom of the league in scoring, and Matt Stafford, even with Allen Robinson and without OBJ, not the same offense at this point, and the Chiefs keep rolling. That was a tough game against the Titans when Derrick Henry was doing whatever he wanted, and the Ravens, that was a get-right game for them. Certainly, looking across the league, it's at the point where we're starting to make Super Bowl predictions, and we're seeing who is the tops of the league, and the Eagles I talked about too. And we're also talking about certainly the front runners for MVP, and the three guys that pop out are Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. And everybody's looking for, it's kind of when LeBron was in his prime, they're looking for reasons to not give it to Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not sure I see any reasons not to give it to him at this point, because Pat Mahomes, we've seen, he is that mold where he has the mobility. He is leading the league in passing yards too. And he can also just make just unbelievable throws, but still make the plays with his feet at this point. It's something else. And obviously having that winning record helps. And I think going into that voting, it obviously has the record in there. It obviously goes to the roster around him, but outside of him, you think Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts have a chance? I know people in the chat are chiming in and thinking that Jalen Hurts could be the upset of the MVP this year, but he's not even in the top 5. I do think it's sort of statistically driven too, because we know that MVP is going to be a quarterback unless you go for 2,000 yards like Derrick Henry, and you have a little bit of a chance, but it's a quarterback's league.
It is, right? And so, right now Josh Allen is still the favorite, even though they lost last week to the Jets. But, that's a costly loss for Josh Allen and the Bills, because now he's dealing with a UCL situation. He's got a UCL sprain. We don't know if he's going to be able to play this Sunday. He's had this sprain before. It's cost him a few games. And so if he has to sit for, maybe this Sunday against the Vikings and a couple games going forward, if it bothers him, that might knock the Bills out of the 1 seed, and that might knock him out of the MVP race. And then you have to look at Jalen Hurts, who's the orchestrator of an MVP, of an undefeated team right now. And then Pat Mahomes, who threw the football over 60 times on Sunday. He threw the football for over 60 times, and he had 43 completions. Can I give you a name that nobody's talking about?
Sure.
Geno Smith is 73% completion percentage right now. He has 15 touchdowns to 4 interceptions right now, and he has a Seahawks team that is humming along right now. Nobody, and I mean nobody, predicted that they would be where they're at right now. He's got over 2,100 yards this way. He's almost at 2,200 yards. He's got a 6-3 football team right now. I think Geno Smith needs to get some more love right now. He's probably going to win. I don't know if they do the comeback player of the year or whatever.
Win that,
but he needs to be getting more love right now in the MVP race. They are 6-3. They are pushing for a playoff spot. They could potentially win that division depending on what the 49ers do. But boy, he's been a lot of fun this year. It's been a really fun story. This guy's been signing multiple one-year contracts with the Seahawks, and he's been Russell Wilson's backup. And now you look at the Seahawks, who clearly fleeced the Denver Broncos in that Russell Wilson trade.
Oh, yes.
And, Geno Smith is going to go to the playoffs. He's probably going to host a playoff game. Right now, I think Dallas would have to go to Seattle for that football game. And, this guy could potentially get a $100 million contract at the end of the year. I don't know how you don't bring him back and pay him a lot of money with how he's played. But that's a fun story. And I just want to insert him into that MVP conversation, because I think he needs to be there right now.
I do like that. And unfortunately, he won't be in even the top running. And Josh Allen, like Ross touched on, he's not practicing. His status is up in the air. The playing status is uncertain at this point. But you'd figure it's still a 2-horse race between Mahomes and Josh Allen, but Jalen Hurts, I mean, what he's been able to do with this Eagles team is really impressive, and they're just such a great team overall. It almost takes away a bit from Hurts's performances, certainly, but there's a lot to look forward to in this next week as the NFL continues. Are you all in on a game in Germany?
I will be all in on an airplane coming back from New York City to Chicago. So
Watch it on there. There you
yeah,
go.
I will watch that game on the airplane. Hey, listen, guess what? Big win by Tom Brady last week. Gutsy win. That was a season-saving win, in my opinion.
big.
His entire team, I thought, looked like crap. I thought receivers were dropping the football, but it turned out that the Rams are a complete mess this year. Matthew Stafford is more of a disaster. And Tom Brady did the Tom Brady thing that he's been doing his entire career, as he kind of marches down the field again at the end of that football game, and he gets a game-winning drive. And I thought that was a nuts to the wall. My wife left me. I'm going through a midlife crisis. I haven't had tomatoes or watermelon in 7 years kind of win there. And I thought that might have saved the Bucs season. And so now they've got to go to Germany. They're playing the Seahawks that we just talked about. And how fun is that football game that we get at 8:30 in the morning, Geno Smith versus Tom Brady football game? It'll be 9:30 East Coast time for me. I'll be sitting in an area at LaGuardia coming back to Chicago, being able to watch that football game. But big win for Brady and the Bucs, and that sets up a fun week 9.
Yeah, I think when you look at Tom Brady, who hasn't eaten nightshade in years, this is God. It's old hat for him. It's so impressive though. He's still second in the league in passing yards. He is doing everything he can despite injuries of the offensive line and whatever the Bucs are trying to do to help him succeed and surround him with talent. He's had injuries at wide receiver. Now the personal stuff, it carries over. But believe you me, that cannot be shut out. These rumors now that Giselle bought a house across the street from him and all the shit that's happening, it has to. But it speaks to the athlete that he is. He's able to shut it out and try to get back to winning football. That is a tough draw against the Seahawks, but and certainly, I don't know if you'll be jet lagged. I don't know how either of these teams will be playing in Germany. I don't know what the conditions are like in Munich at Allianz Arena. But it's nice to have these 8:30 football games. I'm all for the exposure for sure. But the big ones, that noon game, the Vikings-Bills game, is going to be something else as we see the Vikings and Kirk Cousins face off against maybe a Josh Allen-less Bills team. That would be a huge win for them. The rest of the slate, there's not too much going on, right? I mean, the Cowboys should thrash the Packers. We get another divisional game, Cardinals, Rams. We get Chargers, Niners, which should be a little entertaining, and the Monday Nighters, a divisional game. But at this point, there's that's the game. That's it. Besides that's a pretty good one, obviously, at the start of the Sunday that you can watch on NFL Network, Cliff, by the way. But 8:30 football, there's nothing like it. Waking up there,
it's perfect. Can I give you a sneaky good football game potentially?
You could.
I think the Jaguars going into Kansas City could be a sneaky good football game. I like this Jaguars team. I've been liking them this whole year. I just think they're young. They're up and down team, but I like Doug Peterson, their head coach. Excuse me. I love Travis Etienne at the running back position, and I think that's just one of those games that could just be a sneaky good game. A lot of points put on the board. In terms of the other games on Sunday, hopefully Josh Allen plays, because Vikings-Bills should be the marquee matchup on Sunday. But I do love seeing that 49ers team go against Justin Herbert as the night game as well. And then listen, the Commanders, Monday night, Philly, at some point, is Philly really going to go 17-0? Like, are they really going to go 17-0?
Doubtful.
At some point, they have got to lose a football game, right? And so now you start to think about, where is this team going to lose a football game? Your money is probably putting them on losing against a division rival, and the Commanders are frisky. It's a frisky team, and then coming up, we've got a Cowboys game again. That's another frisky matchup, but I'm kind of looking at that Commanders-Eagles game, and I'm like, man, could the Commanders pull this game off, right? And so, that's going to be a fun must game to watch on Monday night. I'm trying to look for the line right now for that game. I can't find it. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that the Eagles are probably -6 at home against the
We got
Commanders.
11.
11. Whew.
Yeah.
I would take the Commanders to cover that football game. I think it's going to be a lot closer. I think that division games, division rival games are very close, and I would keep an eye on that one. We'll talk about it next week, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders win that football game.
Divisional games, you have to throw those records out, in my opinion. And certainly you look at the unders, and from a betting standpoint, in my opinion, when the Commanders will be bringing everything, they don't have a lot to play for besides being the spoiler to the Eagles as that offense takes fly, Eagles fly, as they take the field there. And you like anybody in this game tonight? This is kind of a dud Thursday football game.
It is. It's a game of two bad football teams. It's raining right now on my screen in Carolina because they're dealing with Hurricane Nicole down in Florida. Thoughts and prayers to everybody in Florida. Luckily, it doesn't seem like it's that serious of a hurricane, but the fact that we're getting hurricane this late in the season is definitely interesting. It'll be pushed up to New York City, the rain and stuff like that. So by the time I get in tomorrow, I'm coming into New York City with a ton of rain. But yeah, listen, I think that tonight we're going to get a big ground game with the Falcons and Panthers. I already put a couple bucks on a Cordell Patterson / Deontay Foreman anytime touchdown parlay. But I kind of like the Panthers in this game. I think the Panthers are a frisky team. I think that we just saw these two teams play 2 weeks ago, right? Where we saw the DJ Moore ripped off the helmet thing in the end zone. And, I just think that the Panthers are a bad team, but I don't think they're as bad as as their record has seemed all year. And it's crazy. They're kind of costing themselves a quarterback right now because they should be all in on a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young or something like that. And yet they keep kind of hanging in these games and winning some games, and it might cost them a quarterback to maybe the Lions or the Texans. But I got the Panthers winning this game tonight.
Ooh, I mean, I'm liking the Marcus Mariota led Falcons at this point, especially with Cordell Patterson back. That just completes the package. But yeah, the Panthers have just been
and
Baker Mayfield.
The Panthers are wearing their all black jerseys tonight, black helmet and all. This is on the day that Black Panther has come out in the theaters. It feels like the stars are aligned, and T'Challa, rest in peace, T'Challa, might be able to lead the Panthers to victory. But this is only if PJ Moore is playing. If Baker Mayfield is starting, I want nothing to do with that situation. Baker Mayfield is trash.
Man, so trash. Let's move on, Ross. Talk NBA and the rest of the sporting world and NBA. I know we talked about the Bulls at length last week, and they had a tough loss to the Pelicans last night. Next up they got the Nuggets on a Sunday game, and they have a little bit of a layoff, which is nice. They get some rest, but DeMar DeRozan had one of the best posters of this year. It's more of the same from the Bulls. We'll see, what they can do at the trade deadline and how they can play against their divisional rivals. You split a series against the Raptors. You lost to the Celtics recently. Again, you're playing against the Pelicans. They're going to play some tough competition, right? And so we'll see what they have based on this roster as it's set now until Lonzo Ball can suit up. That's about all we can look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this Bulls team this year has very little buzz in my opinion, just because they can't get rolling. They can't get on
same roster as last year.
Yeah, they just can't get on that winning streak that you need right now. They're very lucky that Justin Fields is kind of overtaking the town with the excitement and the buzz, because they're masquerading the fact that this is an underachieving basketball team right now. They're just, it feels like they win one and then they lose one. They win one and they lose one. It feels like we're going to do this song and dance for 2 or 3 months, and then they're going to find themselves in like a 7th or 8th seed, and they're probably going to get swept by the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round of the playoffs right now, right? So, I kind of got killed at the start of the season for saying that, the Bulls should potentially, look to trade DeMar DeRozan and kind of look to tank, so to speak, and hop into the Victor Wembanyama for sweepstakes, and then also accumulate some first-round draft picks. And I get the need and the want to compete, and you just signed Zach LaVine to a max contract, but where are you going right now as a franchise? And this is not a championship contending basketball team. And that's what I want. Is I've seen a lot of try hard Bulls teams over the years, and I want to get back to the I want to get that seventh banner in the Raptors, right? And so they need a dynamic superstar, and they just don't have one of those guys right now. They don't have one of the 10 best players in the league, and until they get one of those guys, they're just kind of treading water. They're going to keep treading water, keep treading water. They're going to lose to the Pelicans on a Wednesday night, and they're probably going to get smoked by the Nuggets because the Nuggets have Jokic, who's a top 10 player in the league. And I don't know. It just feels like it's a season that's going to be lost, and there's no excitement right now around this Bulls team. There's no talk about it. Nobody's talking about this team. Yeah. City Killer jerseys came out today. Everybody hates them. There's no buzz going on right now, and it just feels like this is where we're at this year. It kind of sucks in my opinion.
It's a 500 team, right? It feels that way because it's a different story every night. You have 40 from Levine one night, and then the starters come back down to earth, and the bench can't support them. And again, you see the good Bulls against the Raptors in front of Drake, and you see the bad ones in front of Drake. It's very up and down for sure. Is Anthony Davis the difference maker you want, Ross? Are you trying to trade for him?
I'll tell you what. Listen,
brother.
I think it's worth a shot. Here's what I would offer if I were the Bulls, and Anthony Davis is on the table.
Yeah, give me the trade. Give me the trade machine.
I would give you Vucevic, I would give you Lonzo Ball, and I would give you 2 to 3 first-round picks for Anthony Davis. And here's why. Is at some point you are going to have to swing for the fences. And yes, Anthony Davis has had injury issues, but this guy is not very far removed from being one of the most dynamic players in the league in the bubble when they won their championship, and also with the Pelicans as well. I think that the entire Lakers situation is an abject mess. They have an absolute terrible roster, one of the worst rosters in the league, in my opinion. I think that's affecting Anthony Davis. He came out yesterday again, and he's kind of said we got to get some big guys on this team. He's telling the front office and the Lakers brass he does not like playing the 5. He is not a center in this league. He's been playing out of position for now 2.5 years with the Lakers, and it has affected his game. This guy's a 4. So if I were the Bulls and you could get him for those pieces, I wouldn't give up any more than that, but just those pieces, and you play Davis with Andre Drummond, at the 4, then I think he's doing a lot better as a basketball player when you pair him with a DeMar DeRozan and a Zach LaVine, guys who are able to space the floor a little bit and allow Davis to kind of operate in space where he belongs. I think he's still a dynamic defensive player, and the East is it going to get you past the Milwaukee Bucks? Probably not. Giannis is freaking like Thanos right now. He's the most dominant player on the planet. That Bucks team is rolling, but at least it makes you a lot more competitive. And I think that the Bulls can at least make the Eastern Conference Finals with that situation. But it's a swing that I'm willing to make because right now, what's going on with this Bulls team? They're just treading water. And so the Patrick Williams of the world, the Vucevic's of the world, and even Ayo Dosunmu has been a fun. He was a fun rookie, but he's been up and down as a sophomore starter and stuff like that. I want to shake this team up in some way because right now I don't like it. I just don't like this Bulls team. I don't like watching it. It bores me.
The guys you mentioned can go, right? And Vucevic and Lonzo Ball, sure. I'd be all for it. I don't know if the Lakers would go for it at that point. They probably would.
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, and it's like if you're the Lakers right now, you're kind of selling any pieces that you have on 70 cents on the dollar. And so sure. some team has to take advantage. I personally think that the Lakers would take any draft picks that they can get because I think in the offseason they're going to go hard and heavy after Kevin Durant and try and do a push for a LeBron James, Kevin Durant team, especially with Russell Westbrook's contract coming off the books. So, why wouldn't they try and go for that? Anthony Davis is not going to be the future of their team. I don't think that him and LeBron fit well together anymore. Davis is a Chicago guy. He's also a clutch athlete, and the Bulls have had a lot of success with dealing with clutch players from Lonzo Ball to Zach LaVine's now in clutch as well. So why not go for it for both teams?
Interesting. LeBron, of course, in the headlines for the wrong reasons, defending Kyrie Irving on Twitter, thinking the Nets' punishment was excessive. We'll leave that. We'll leave that there. But the Lakers need to do something. They're just basically preparing for Bronny and LeBron. They want that pair up at some point too when Bronny makes that big jump. But the rest of the NBA is in full swing. It's been fun to watch. As you said, Giannis is just nuts right now. The Bucks finally lost a game last week, but they are just lighting it up between them and the Cavaliers. Cavaliers are electric too. That makes you jealous if you're the Bulls, because the Bulls are just treading water, and you need that just incredible piece, that centerpiece that they don't necessarily have. Zach LaVine would have to take a monstrous jump for them to jump like that into the top standings of the East for sure. And did you enjoy Mattress Mac making all his millions on the Astros bet?
I mean, shout out to Mattress Mac. I hope he's able to at least donate some of that money to a good cause. I was just shocked that he was able to make that bet. This is not the Vegas that I knew and grew up with. The old Bugsy Siegel Vegas days and Casino with De Niro and Joe Pesci. When the Astros probably won game 4 or whatever, and they were 1 win away from clinching, you probably would have found Mattress Mac in the desert somewhere, and not able to collect it, right? But shout out to him. But most importantly, shout out to Dusty Baker, who
yes,
is a manager who's been a long time in this game. He's a true pro. He's a true servant of the game of baseball. A black manager in a World Series where we saw no black players, and I was excited to see him get his first World Series. It was well deserved for him. I can remember as a young man myself watching those Giants teams in the playoffs and the World Series, and he had his son out there running around, on the diamond and stuff like that, and almost got tackled trying to get a bat from the plate. And I think it was like Jeff Kent or something like that picked him up in the most iconic moment. But that's who I was most excited for was Dusty Baker getting a World Series. Absolutely. Now let's turn that page. And let's hope that the White Sox can make a couple moves to get me excited again to go back to the G spot next year.
We shall see. It's a long off season for them. As we get out of here, are you seeing Wakanda Forever this weekend?
Not this weekend. I will see it next weekend. Please, no spoilers. Although I kind of got the gist of what's going to happen.
Most important the trailers, it gives you the whole fucking plot.
It does, which is, side note, I miss when trailers would just give you a little bit of a taste and not the whole thing. We were so far removed from that. But shout out to Ryan Coogler for coming back to do a Marvel film. But also I selfishly hope that this is his last Marvel movie, because I want him to see him go back to more independent projects like Fruitvale Stations of the world that he's done in the past. I think he's just an outstanding director. I hate when our great directors are sucked into superhero content for so long. But I'm excited to watch it, and I'm excited to see the Chadwick Boseman, kind of memoriam that they're going to do. I'm a big fan of Lupita Nyong'o. I think she's an outstanding actress, and it's going to be really cool to see. And I think that Namor is going to be, is going to be a very important and iconic villain, so to speak, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I think that very much like Killmonger in the first Black Panther, a lot of people are going to find themselves siding with Namor a lot more.
When you said Neymar, I was like, oh my god,
Neymar,
soccer player, he's in it.
He's kicking soccer balls at Black Panther.
Great villain. He kills people with his strength with the soccer ball kicking. On the note of Marvel, Chris Evans named Sexiest Man Alive. Better luck next year, Ross. So sorry.
I came in 31st.
Came in 31st? You got beat out by John Mulaney and Patrick Stewart's apprentice. Good for you. Good work there. Are you watching Andor, by the way?
I'm not watching Andor. I need to jump into that. I'm taking kind of like a fantasy show binge. That Game of Thrones really sucked the life out of me.
Yeah.
So I haven't even started the Lord of the Rings show yet. I wanted to get more back to just some authentic shows. I need to finish Industry, so I have a couple more episodes of season 2 of Industry. I started Servant on Apple Plus, which is the M. Night Shyamalan show about it's a creepy show about a baby that was dead for a family. The baby came back, and there's a babysitter involved. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm still watching it.
Sounds like M. Night Shyamalan.
It is, yes.
Sounds like it. Did we miss anything, Ross?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, coming up at 9 p.m. Central Time, it's Science Fliction. And the guys on the show will give you their MCU tier list. Thanks to all the barflies for chiming in the comments. And thanks to everybody for watching, listening in, watching live on YouTube here. If you missed any of the show, missed any of our previous shows, you can catch them on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your audiovisual needs. Remember to subscribe, like, all of it. Please support the barroom content. On Twitter, follow me at the Real Evan Mac, follow Ross at Ross Reed, follow the Barroom at Barroom Network. Beat Detroit. It's all that matters. It's all I got to say. Be good to each other out there. So long, everybody.
Peace.